Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a great day so far, and we can make it a little bit better. As today, our guest that is joining us is the one, the only, the AMD. That's right. They make processors, graphics cards, and we are going to be talking to a gentleman from AMD about their AMD for You service, and just in general about computers, desktops, laptops, and what you should really be looking for when you consider purchasing a new computer. Because obviously back to school just kind of happened. I'm sure there are a number of you that are still looking for computers, and in the holidays, they're right around the corner. That's another big buying time. So as we jump into this, actually before we jump into this, a few things to mention, including computeramerica.com. That is where you'll find anything and everything for today's show, be it links to our guest website, be it any articles that we do when we do computer and technology news, anything of that nature. Don't worry, we have you covered at computeramerica.com. Also, be sure to check out the contest, which we give away a prize every single Friday to a lucky listener that's from Logitech. And yeah, we read the winner's name live on the air here every single Friday. And hey, we could be reading your name this upcoming Friday, as long as you enter. And the last thing is the video portion, where you can watch Computer America and not just listen. That's right, always fun, and we highly recommend that you check that out. We are, of course, a radio audience, but it's just another way to experience the show. So with all of that said, why don't we jump into our interview, because again, really have been looking forward to this, and there's a lot to talk about in not a lot of time. So joining us today is Raymond Dumbeck, and he is the Global Marketing Director for AMD. And yeah, so Raymond, thank you for joining us on Computer America.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So, and this is going to seem weird, but I say this to all my guests. For anyone out there who may not know about AMD, why don't you give us a little bit of a background about AMD and a little bit of background on yourself? How did you find yourself at AMD?
So I've been at AMD for a little over 7 years, and off and on, 2 different times. But overall, we've got a number of great things happening at AMD. We've most recently launched our Ryzen CPUs into the market, and wanted to talk a little bit about those today and give folks a little bit of update, 1, on that new launch, and 2, on the AMD for You website, which is a program that was put together to give people the ability to access games and productivity software that they wouldn't normally try, but it gives them the ability to try those things for free.
Right, yeah, looking forward to talking about AMD for You, but you're right. I think a good starting point would be, the new Ryzen Threadripper. We've been hearing a lot about that in the news. You've been making a lot of waves with that. So, what's new with AMD, and obviously, processors and graphics cards alike?
Well, here's the great thing. So, if anybody follows AMD, what they've seen is us launch our Ryzen 7, our Ryzen 5, and our Ryzen 3 processors into the market earlier this year. Recently, we also launched our Ryzen Threadripper product, which is 16 cores, 32 threads of pure goodness. Yeah. And go ahead.
Just so we don't leave anyone in the dust here, the big deal behind something like a Threadripper, this is, kind of aimed at the enthusiast market. I wouldn't even say the, kind of the higher end of the average consumer. But if you could explain to everyone real quick about Threadripper and why it was such a big deal, and why AMD has decided that more cores is the way to go instead of just kind of status quo.
Exactly. And so Threadripper in and of itself, you have a typical processor that you would see in the market at 4 cores, 4 threads. Well, when we launched our Ryzen-based products, our 7, 5s, and 3s, right, you had the ability to go up to 8 cores, 16 threads. And then we ended up launching Threadripper, which is an enthusiast class processor, or workstation class processor if you're more in the commercial market, right? If you're creating content and doing multiple heavy tasks, heavy lifting, multiple cores, multiple threads, it would take something that was your current machine may belabor in terms of workload, and Threadripper and just the additional cores and threads in and of themselves should make that easier as the software is adapted to take advantage of them.
Right, yeah, and that is something that I think a lot of software developers have been waiting for. Is they've been wanting to develop more and more software for multi-threaded CPUs and things like that, but just for the longest time, there hasn't been a lot of innovation beyond 2-core, 4-core, and it kind of hamstrings development of software. So good to see that obviously there's a lot of excitement around Threadripper and around AMD in general. So and by the way, we're going to come back to, I'm sure, processors and computers in general. But another thing that this is the first time I'm kind of hearing about it, but AMD for you, what is this and why is this?
So AMD for You is a website that gives you, or a program for consumers, if they buy a qualifying AMD-based PC, that they can go to the amdforyou.com website, verify their eligibility, and they can get access. They can qualify for up to 3 free video games, and access to an Adobe offering as well. So we know that not everybody's a gamer, right? So we make games available because there's a lot of people that play games. But we know not everybody's a gamer, so we also offer productivity try and buys, if you will, from Adobe, Photoshop, and Lightroom, giving people the ability to, if they're photo enthusiasts, give them the ability to try the software free of charge, and then they can either choose to continue to use it and start paying for it, or they can just move on.
No, and that's definitely great that you reached out to Adobe, I'm assuming, and you kind of got them into the mix, because I have personally have friends who are going back to school for for art and things like that, and you think if you go back for a creative degree, pen, paper, that gets you so far, but so many illustrative classes require you to have Creative Cloud, Photoshop, Illustrator, what have you. I mean, it's a very, very powerful tool. So was that kind of your first choice, was to reach out to Adobe, and Creative Cloud was what makes Creative Cloud and AMD such a good mix in your mind?
Well, here's the cool part about what we did. Not only, again, did we offer a series of great games, and we're going to talk about those here in just a moment, but from the Adobe side of the house, when you start looking at the offerings that people have access to, depending on what they qualify for, right, they can either get 3 months of an Adobe photography plan, which is a $30 value, right? If you can go look it up yourself, or if your machine is high enough, you get up to 2 months of Adobe Creative Cloud, which is all of the applications in the Creative Cloud, which is a $100 value.
Yeah. Yeah, and
when you start talking about a $30 or $100 value on a machine, when you're talking $500, $600, $700, $800, I mean that's a good value.
Right. Yeah, and we're going to talk about just kind of where you can get these offerings, because here at Computer America, we have been encouraging people lately to go out, build their own PCs and things like that. But sometimes you don't want to go through the hassle of making sure your RAM matches your motherboard, matches your power supply, blah blah blah. So we're going to talk about where you can maybe get a pre-built AMD product as well. But so Square Enix, obviously we know of them. They make a lot of great games.
Yep.
What kind of led you to approach Square Enix? Did they have offerings that were, that people just wanted to buy, or, why Square Enix?
So we definitely support the indie gaming industry and the creativity that is driven out of that industry. And, SEC has been a great partner for us with the AMD for You program in that they offer a series of games over, a period of time that gives people the ability to go and, select the games that they want. So it's basically a library. So it's not as if we were offering only 3 games in this portfolio of games. It's actually a series of 10 different games that will be released over time that people can go choose. So when we talk about the AMD for You program, people have the ability, again, once they go in and verify their eligibility to load up to 3 free games, they can actually go choose the games that they want, even if that game hasn't been released yet. They'll just And once that game is released, they'll get notified via email that that game is available, and they can actually go back and download it.
I like that. And hey, especially if you buy a PC for, the school year and you want to hold off on gaming, doesn't mean that you have, 3 new games, burning a hole in your pocket. You can save them for something that you really, really want. I like that. That is, it's definitely a nice way. So you keep saying, as soon as you qualify for, as soon as you check your eligibility, as soon as you, kind of qualify for it, how does one qualify or and obviously purchasing an AMD product, but can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. Verifying qualification is very easy because there's an automated tool on the website that can go check the PC and tell you what you qualify for. When you start looking at the overall systems in and of itself, if you're familiar with AMD products, you're going to know the Ryzen products and our Radeon products are available for or qualify you for those different offerings. But there's also, in the mainstream and entry level, where you have an A8 and an A9 up through an A10 that can get you, really good products.
Yeah, and by the way, for anyone out there watching the video portion of the show, we were able to find the eligible AMD computer systems and manufacturers and see that you work here. Many, many companies that we like to see here. Acer, HP, Lenovo, Toshiba, places like that. And of course,
absolutely.
And of course, all the different, graphics cards and CPUs. So it seems like you really covered your bases, and it seems like a nice treat for anyone. And again, this is something that if you've been paying attention for the past couple months, if you already were thinking about getting an AMD, this seems like a nice, kind of a bonus add-on. It's not even I wouldn't even pick this as the reason I would buy AMD, just be for 3 free games, but it would be definitely a nice addition. And if I'm not mistaken, you kind of tried to line this up with back to school, which of course, we're, a week or 2 out of, but, how's the response been, for back to school? Has this kind of generated any excitement in, people buying new PCs? Maybe, hey, AMD is the way to go?
So overall, I think people are very happy with the offering in and of itself. So again, when you talk about your Latin American audience, or if we're looking at your Latin American audience, entry into this program starts at the A8 level of processor, and up to A8, A9 gets you into that this program.
Right.
When you start looking at North America, right, that's where you start looking at an A10 and above that gets you into this program. Overall, I think people see this as a value in that, again, rather than paying $30 to go try, $30 to $100 to go try these different applications with Adobe, for example, they get to try it for free. If they choose to continue on once they've used it, great. In any case, right, you get up to 3 games, depending on your eligibility, and those are yours to keep once you qualify for them.
Right. No, very, very cool. And, I will say that I have seen other bundles, be it with console gaming, be it with PCs, where they put some kind of vinyl on the computer system. They say it's for Battlefield, or insert game here. And I've seen a lot of those. Be it Halo, Battlefield, World of Warcraft. This is different. This is the first time I've ever seen Square Enix, a developer, kind of reach out and partner with obviously AMD. How is that kind of what makes this unique about this program, is that it's not just about one particular game. You're not trying to cater to one particular title, but it seems like you have more mass appeal with this strategy.
Well, absolutely. And so what you typically see in market is that when people go and do a game program or a bundle program with a supplier, they go and they have one game and they really promote it, and they put a lot of the photography and all of the different branding all over it, for that specific game. In this particular game, or in this particular case, pardon me, when we partnered with Square Enix, they became so easy to work with. They're very imaginative, very thoughtful, and in the program, their thought, right, or the thought of us together combined was just, why don't we offer a series of different games that people can choose from? Mm-hmm. Let's not, try and push them to a specific game. People have an idea of the types of things that they like to play. In this particular case, they have the ability to sort through a library, do a little research on the game, learn a little bit about it, and if that's what they choose to take, then they have a choice. I believe it's actually out of 10 specific games released over time. They get to choose it from all of those different games of which ones they want.
Right. Yeah. And
oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, people can actually go and if you're interested to understand a little bit more about the program, what games are available, the terms of the program, those types of things, go to AMD, the number 4, the letter U.com, and you can read more about the program. And it'll tell you, you get to see the list of games, you get to, learn a little bit more about the program overall.
Right, and if you're watching, if you go to computeramerica.com in the show notes, we'll definitely include AMDforyou.com just to make that simple for everyone. And yeah, it's very, very cool. And I guess now we can start talking about, and by the way, how long does the contest run? Because obviously back to school kind of just ended, but holidays, is this going to extend through the holidays?
It'll run through the end of the year.
Very, very cool. So, and I think that, kind of frees us up to talk about, now you have an incentive, now you have a reason to, kind of further look at AMD, kind of offerings, but let's talk about, what makes a PC right for a person, because especially with the introduction of Threadripper, I believe like the top end of that goes to $999 for CPU. But hey, you have options that go, all the way down to, I think, anyone's kind of budget. And same goes for your graphics cards. What should a consumer look for in a PC when they focus on gaming? Because, even in just AMD offerings, you have a lot of choices. You have a lot of flexibility.
Well, and that's a very good question. So if you're talking about a mainstream gaming type PC, AMD's FX processor is a good place to start, and that's a good starting point for a gaming type platform. But if you really want to get into AAA and AAA gaming and have a machine that's going to really put you in that zone, I think the Ryzen-based machines, Ryzen 7 is probably the best. When you start talking about creation, right, aside from gaming, when you start talking about creating, if you're doing graphics, visuals, high-end workloads, that's when that Threadripper class of product is almost perfect.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, just real quick, just to kind of ask you, because this is something that, we at Computer America, we started doing a little while ago. And I noticed that, just in my personal life, my friends, and a lot of people I know, this idea of streaming, this idea that you aren't just playing games alone, you're playing it for an audience, you're playing it with others. Has AMD taken any kind of notice of, the idea of streaming, and which one of these CPUs would you kind of recommend? Because that's another workload on top of running maybe graphic intensive games.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I was going to also say, you can look at the other thing you want to consider when you're talking about gaming, and I'll jump over to the streaming here
Oh,
in
sure.
just a moment. The other piece that you want to consider when you're looking at gaming is your graphics solution. So the Radeon 580 class of product is perfect, especially at that higher end AAA gaming level of use. Now, when you start talking about people playing their games, what a phenomenon to have people play their games, their video games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then to be able to stream them and have an audience of people that will actually watch you play. And that phenomenon, and it is exactly that, has continued to grow, and more people are actually doing this, right? They're not specifically playing the games, they're watching other people play the games. And so when we start looking at that, the class of product that you're going to want to really steer yourself towards is that Ryzen 7 class of product.
Right. Yeah, and that's where, the idea of multiple cores and, having a CPU with a lot of threads that will, let you do multiple things at once and not, slow down your game, not compromise any one of them. You get to do them all at the same time. So that's certainly something that should definitely be noted of. But no, and you're right. You kind of did jump into graphics cards there. And, lately there's been a lot of praise, obviously, for CPUs, as I keep mentioning. But your graphics cards, one place that AMD has really shined, and I say this in the best way possible, but one place that AMD has really shined was, not necessarily the RX 580s, but the place like I think it was like the 290s, for the price and the performance that you get. AMD has a lot of systems that if you don't have a lot of money to spend, you still get a pretty good gaming system, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, you can go to any retailer at this particular point in North America, and you're going to find systems. Let's just use notebooks for an example, and then we can move over to desktops. But you can see notebooks from anywhere from, starting at $279, which are very basic entry-level notebooks that can, do great streaming, or pardon me, web surfing, basic office productivity type things, up to over $1,000 for a notebook for gaming, and higher, just depending on what your level of gaming would be.
Right. Yeah. And so actually that kind of answers my next question was for price, because it's you threw a couple of prices out there. What would you kind of consider someone who's looking to future-proof themselves? Because obviously if you go to the lower end of that spectrum, it may last you a decently long time for office productivity and web surfing, but for gaming, it might start showing its age sooner than something higher end. Where would you go to future-proof yourself?
Yeah, I was going to say the systems at the lower end I would not buy for gaming. If you're a gamer, that is something you want to go up in the higher products with higher specifications to make sure that you can actually play the games. You really want to put yourself in a position, understand what type of games you're wanting to play. Are they AAA titles? Is it esports? Is it, very basic gaming? You get to choose, but at the end of the day, what you want to do is make sure that you get the right system that's right for your usage. If you're playing games and streaming at the same time, again, you've just stepped up another level. So really, what you want to do is, if you're going to be buying a system that's going to last, 3 years or so, and you want it to be performant and just
right.
Stay in that area, you want to go up in those areas to where, let's say in the notebook categories, let's say the $600 ish frame up, depending on what you're doing. And it really, and I can't stress that enough, it really depends on what you're doing. For gaming, again, FX is a great place to start. Class of product or processor. If you're going to be in the higher AAA like titles, Ryzen 5 and 7 are perfect for you, depending on your level, right, and what you're willing to spend.
Right.
And then, and if you are one of those enthusiasts that can never have enough. And then there's a lot of those folks out there, and we love them because they're so much fun and very creative. Threadripper is your product.
Right. Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. That's on the extreme side of the scale. But I got to tell you, what a fun group of people that go into that class of machine. You know, it's crazy some of the stories that we get, and they're wonderful to read.
Yeah, you know, and just a couple months ago, just to, you know, say personal experience, I recently, you know, my computer, it was kind of high tech when I got it in like 2013. It was great, and then about just this year, it was starting to show its age, and I'm like, you know, it's time to upgrade. And you know, when you upgrade a computer, you know, we've been talking about buying a new computer. We definitely recommend, you know, just kind of upgrading an old tower if you can. And you know, starting from the motherboard, going to the RAM, going to the processor. I mean, it's incredible how a lot of components, you know, not just the processor, not just the graphics card, but even M.2 memory, you know, for an SSD, things like that can really, like, I think a computer built today with some of the highest parts is incomparable to anything you could build 2-3 years ago. Like, really, it's you know, technology companies in general, AMD included, have really been stepping up their game and really embracing, you know, this enthusiast class that, I mean, and I'm sure that, you know, Raymond, you've been in this field long enough. I'm sure that you remember every other year there was, this is the end of the desktop computer. Mm-hmm. The desktop computer is dead. And I've been seeing a huge reversal. Yeah.
No, I've heard that for so many years. I've heard those words for so many years, and it just, that time never come or hasn't come yet, right? I can't say never, but it hasn't come yet. Desktops, there is such an enthusiast class that love desktops, 1, 2, the versatility of them, and 3, the ability to change, mix and match parts and components. That's flexibility that, you know, is hard to get in other ways. And when you're gaming, upgrading your graphics cards, want a new processor, or frankly, just you want to gut the thing and start over, you can do that in a lot of cases, depending on the chassis, of course. But
right,
gives people the flexibility to grow their system as they grow in their needs and wants.
Right. No, and you answered that so well that it kind of takes us into, you know, one of our other questions, and the idea between laptops and desktops for gamers. And I folks, I don't assume Raymond here is going to answer this entire debate with one simple sentence, but who would you kind of drive towards laptops and who would you drive towards desktops?
People that are more mobile in their gaming. So if you're, believe it or not, I was actually in New York a couple weeks ago, was on the train, mm-hmm. and there was a guy sitting there playing on his laptop. And I, you know, being nosy and being in the industry, I wanted to see what the heck he was doing. And I guess the guy was going home because it was late in the afternoon. Maybe he was going to work, I don't know. But he was playing on his laptop, and I looked over. I couldn't tell what game it was, but I could see him, you know, the look on his face, the movement of his hands, and I could kind of just get a side glimpse of the screen of the game. And so he was playing a game. The guy was playing a game on the way home. So if you're more mobile in your needs, you know, to answer your question, you know, basically, if you're more mobile in your needs, laptop is probably the way to go. Gaming laptop is probably the way to go. If you are someone that, you know, wants to continue to increase and upgrade over time without, you know, changing the platform itself, then probably the desktop.
Oh, right. No, and you know, obviously that makes a lot of sense. Personally, I always try to steer people towards, you know, desktops because I do like cracking it open. I do like, well, you know, part of it.
Me too.
Yeah, you too as well. I mean, you know, part of it also being able to clean it. I have a very, you know, 2 large dogs, so I like to be able to clean my things, but also upgrade and things like that. Raymond, I'm going to ask you very, very politely, would you mind staying over for like 2 or 3 minutes past the commercials? Because there's 2 more topics. I want to talk about any kind of systems that really stand out to you, you know, obviously with back to school, you know, maybe from any OEMs or any kind of systems stand out to you. And then the other part is virtual reality and where AMD sees themselves in virtual reality as a technology. So, so you can stay over, correct?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
All right, perfect. So, everyone, the music means we're going to take a break here, and we'll be right back with AMD. We'll be right back with, we'll be back with AMD. We'll be talking about things I just mentioned. Mr. Raymond Dumbeck, he is the Global Marketing Director for AMD. Check it out, computeramerica.com, full show notes, and, of course, AMD4U.com. We'll be right back, Computer America, just after this.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And just like that, we're back. Computer America, 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And of course, joining us is once again AMD, Raymond Dumbeck. He is the Global Marketing Director for AMD. Happy to have him here with us. And I couldn't resist asking him to stay over a little bit. And I lied. There was actually 3 questions I need to ask you, Raymond. But let's start with the obvious one. Any systems that you're excited about? Because I know that and please feel free to correct me, I might have my names wrong, but I think AMD did a really cool promotion with Alienware with their CPUs and their Threadrippers, and they had a really nice looking computer. It was very, very powerful. It was I think exciting for a lot of people. Are there any kind of OEMs or any kind of systems that are standing out to you?
Oh, absolutely. There are people that have done OEMs that have done some really remarkable things with, let's use Threadripper as an example. Dell did an outstanding job with their Area 51 product. If you haven't seen that, just the look of that machine itself is compelling. When you see it, you're drawn to look at it and you want to know more about it, and it's pretty impressive. And so that product was absolutely wonderful. If you aren't into the Threadripper class of product and need something that's a little bit more, no pun intended, down to earth, then you go and you look at the Dell gaming laptop, the Inspiron class of gaming product. You can get that at any North America retailer, Best Buy, for example, right. Costco, those types of places.
Right, wherever great computing systems are sold, I'm sure. But no,
absolutely. I wasn't trying to. Yeah.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, and obviously, you can get them off the shelf. That's please go ahead.
Yeah, you can also get it. I mean, frankly, you can get the same machine at Dell.com as well.
Yeah. You can you can get them off the shelf. That's one thing that AMD I think really does a good job as well. Is a lot of times we kind of ask people to steer clear of computers directly off the shelf because they're made for a mass market. They're not specialized, and we're all about the customization. But hey, it's they do have some very, very nice computers. If you don't want the hassle, you can just snag one and get going. So, but
well, exactly. I was just going to say another example of that is the HP Omen 880. You can get that again at any North America retailer as well as HP.com. But you're talking about good, solid gaming systems that people can feel comfortable loading, playing, enjoying, and not having to actually build the system themselves.
Right, yeah, and that's where I think OEMs actually play their part very, very well in walking you through step by step. Omen, that was a name I had not heard in a while. I forgot that HP resurrected that brand. That was a very, very good pickup. So no, there's that, and Raymond also, so the computers are one thing, but let's talk about kind of gaming and the idea of virtual reality. Now, I'll be the first to admit it didn't take off as fast as I hoped it would, and part of the reason for that was the crazy cost of the hardware it took to run it. It took, when it was first announced, with the Oculus Rift, I mean, it took about a $1,500 computer, and then I think it was AMD with their graphics cards, their R290X or something like that. That it was the first time that you could get a sub $1,000 computer to actually run virtual reality. It was exciting. So, how does AMD kind of view virtual reality, and do you think it still has a place in the gaming market?
Oh, sure it does. Sure it does. It will really depend on the user themselves, actually. A lot of people are used to the gaming environment, a traditional gaming environment, but then there's those other folks that really want to push the limit. And when you want to push that limit, I got to tell you, if you're ever exposed to virtual reality and actually see it, it is definitely what's the right word?
Experience.
A shock to your senses.
Yeah.
It's a shock to your senses. I mean, for me, the first time I ever experienced it, I'll just give you a brief overview. The first time I ever experienced it, I put on a headset, and somebody had an art program that I was able to literally sit and draw in the air, and then I could walk around what I drew. It was just amazing to me.
Right,
it was. Yeah, it was just amazing to me. When you start talking about gaming and virtual reality gaming, oh my goodness, literally running beside the people, the art of the possible, right? Running beside people in the game, it's the art of how realistic you can simulate the world is pretty impressive. And frankly, as technology goes on, it'll get better and better. And instead of just an augmented reality world, virtual reality puts you in a completely different world, which is, a great escape. So yeah, I think there is. I think virtual reality does have legs in gaming. I think that the people, you'll always have those people that are on the cutting edge and always want the latest and greatest and will drive that market. Those people, you'll be able to tell how fast it takes off depending on how fast those people adopt it. And what I mean by those people, those cutting edge types, they always want the greatest. They always want the latest. They demand it. They need it.
Yeah.
And they'll be talking about it. Those people are also extremely vocal. They'll tell you what's good and what's not. You'll see it on social media. They will make sure that people know if the experience is good or not.
For sure. And
frankly, they're a good source of information.
Yeah, and a good source for information. How so?
Well, I mean, they've tried it.
Oh, true.
They put their money where their mouth is. They bought it. They tried it. They are reviewing it, and they're giving you the ability. And this is another thing that I think that a trend that we're seeing is that people are going on social media, right? People look at reviews when they go to buy a system, right? They want to see reviews. They want to feel comfortable that what they're buying is good, right? So people that aren't familiar with technology will go for reviews. Well, what we're also seeing is that those same people that aren't familiar with technology will start looking at what the people that are familiar with technology are saying about it. Is it something they like? And they look at the systems and the parts and everything that's being reviewed, and they get good insight from those technology enthusiasts as to what is good and what's not. And they're a great source of information. They're highly knowledgeable. They're typically well-written reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Overall, social media has become a great catalyst not only for communication but for education in that regard. In terms of technology.
Absolutely. I mean, we see it all the time where actually listeners of the show, they'll actually send in their own reviews, and we love talking to them because it seems like it at this point, being of course, having the background, that's very important, but you can just be an enthusiast. You can just be someone excited about a certain product, and, they'll approach us and say, hey, I recently reviewed XYZ, and, here are my thoughts. And, the technical stuff can be picked up on the back end. The enthusiasm, the excitement, you can't fake that. And I think, people
you can't
really
buy that either.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't buy that either. And the great thing is about the people that these enthusiasts and these technology trendsetters, if you will, they're typically very genuine in what they say. They're very firm in what they believe, and they're very articulate in how they say it. They're going to make sure that you know exactly what they mean, and they're going to give you a good, honest review of what's performing well, things you might like, usage experiences, and they'll also tell you, hey, it's time to wait, or it's time to buy now. It's
Right.
a great source of information, and we're seeing that trend over and over and over with the people that write into us, kind of giving us hey, we saw this on your Facebook page, we saw this, blah blah blah, and just giving us the updates of what they're reading and how they're getting their information, and it's evolving.
Yeah, no, it certainly is, but hey, we like to see that. So I think the last thing that I'm going to ask you, Raymond, before we let you go here, obviously we were talking about a little bit earlier about computer systems, maybe having these higher end CPUs, these graphics cards, something that a lot of people are maybe not comfortable with, or they don't know really much about. And that's, this thing called overclocking. And it's the idea that you can get more, you can get more power out of the same products if you increase the voltage, things like that. Of course, there's a happy medium. There's a happy medium where, you don't completely blow up your system and you just get more power out of it. I see here that AMD has this thing, and let's see if I say this right, AMD Ryzen Master, and it lets you a tool to unlock AMD Ryzen processors. Can you talk about some of the software that comes included with AMD products?
So absolutely. So all of the Ryzen processors are capable of being overclocked, and the OEMs have to be able to allow that, one, or two, if you're building your own, the system supplier that you're buying, or the supplier from which you're buying, would need to make sure that that's enabled. But if it is enabled, then every one of these parts, you can actually go in using our Ryzen Master overclocking utility and overclock your system. Some of the great things about these processors that you may or may not know is that the Ryzen processors have this technology called SenseMI. And it's really kind of a series of different technologies that enable that processor to I use this term loosely, but be self-aware, right? There's hundreds of sensors in the different processor itself. It's able to understand its temperature, how hot, if it's running cool, if it's running warm, if it can reroute things, and it gives you the ability to make sure that it can watch out for itself, if you will. It's a bit self-aware.
Right. Yeah. And funny that you mentioned that. I mean, just kind of poking around AMD neural net prediction. I mean, we've had a number of companies on in the past couple of weeks that actually run those neural nets, and learning about the capabilities that they can do. Very interesting to start seeing it in more and more fields. I like that.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty cool, actually. The neural net prediction, just to make sure that people have a gist of what that is essentially as you're using the system, right? The processor will sit and watch how you're using these specific applications, and it will try and predict, right, based on how you're using the application, what you're going to do next, and it will chart the shortest path through the processor to be able to allow information to go as quick as possible through that processor. And then it combines neural net prediction with a technology called Smart Prefetch, where because it thinks it knows what you're about to do, it's going to go grab the data it thinks you're about to use and put it in cache so it can shoot it through the processor as quickly as possible. So in layman's terms, that's what it does. And it's actually wonderful. We're hitting that stage where technology, again, we've made some great leaps. The whole industry has made some great leaps over the last few years, and I think we're starting to see the fruits of that labor.
Yeah, no, it sounds like, obviously I think a lot of people in computers or otherwise, we're creatures of habit. If you start up the computer, you open up your email, you check this, check that. If you play games, you open up your maybe you start streaming, and it seems like it kind of recognizes your patterns, and hey, it helps you along. So, Raymond, my goodness, I'm sorry for keeping you over, but this was a lot of very good information.
No, I've had a lot of fun doing it. This was actually really, really fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And everyone, one last time, AMD, this is Mr. Raymond Dumbeck. He is the Global Marketing Director for AMD. And Raymond, looking forward to having you back on when you release something new. And obviously, thanks for coming on.
Well, I sincerely appreciate it. And again, I just encourage your listeners, if they want to know more about our AMD for You program, please go to AMD, the number 4, the letter U.com, and you can learn more about that program.
Right, and it's already in the show notes at computeramerica.com. If you forget it, don't worry, we got you covered. So one last time, Raymond, have a great day. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, and there he goes, everyone. So that was, of course, Mr. Raymond Dumbeck. And hey, AMD, always a pleasure to talk to them, and always a pleasure to see what they're up to, because as I'm sure you've picked up on, if you've been paying attention to computer and technology news segments, they're not standing still, and it shows. And that interview, I think, was a good way to kind of show that they're trying to, of course, work on the technology side. The R&D is always exciting to hear about, but so is their marketing side, and hearing about how they may entice you to join the AMD side. So now let's do computer and technology news, and this is brought to you by Fire Dragon Security. So everyone, here we go. All right, so everyone, why don't we get things kicked off here with, I think, the biggest story of the day, at least as far as I can tell, and this is about CCleaner. Now, CCleaner, they're a product that it's not only so pervasive, it's to the point that it's even on our free software page at Computer America, where we kind of categorize and collect software that is free of charge, that does the service and does it well. And CCleaner was definitely on there because it did exactly that. It was lightweight, it was very good at what it did, and hey, it's no frills about it. Well, turns out it was doing something a little bit bad here for the past month, and this was indeed distributing malware. So again, just to give you kind of an idea, I mean, this isn't some random program. This was even software recommended by us, Computer America, to help your computer run faster. So, and by the way, CCleaner, kind of what it did was, by the name CCleaner, it would clean your C drive, and obviously you could kind of say clean the D drive as well, but it would get rid of cookies, it would get rid of cache sites, it would get rid of empty out your recycling bin, it would clear out whatever, save passwords or whatever you wanted it to. It would clear it all out, help everything run faster, because it would delete everything that was taking up valuable resources. And again, it was very good at what it did, but turns out for the past month it was doing something it shouldn't have done. So the version 5.33, and you can check that in the About section of CCleaner, saying that version 5.33 of CCleaner app offered for download between August 15th and September 12th was modified to include the Floxif malware. So this is only affecting people who either downloaded or updated between the dates August 15th and September 12th. Everyone else, if you didn't update or you updated already to, version 5.34, you should be good to go. But know what happens. And so here we go. Floxif is a malware downloader that gathers information about the infected system and sends it back to its CNC server. And the malware also had the ability to download and run other binaries, but at the time of the writing, there's no evidence that Floxif downloaded additional second stage payloads on infected hosts. So essentially saying, it collects data about your computer, what you're doing, what programs you're running, things of that nature. And it also has the ability to download other short scripts that could be used to, reroute network traffic. It could be used to, keylog, things like that. But so far, there's no proof that anything like that had happened. It's just there was a possibility it could have. So the malware collected information such as computer name, a list of installed software, a list of running processes, the MAC address, so for your network, and for the first 3 network interfaces, and unique IDs to identify each computer in part. Researchers noted that the malware only ran on 32-bit systems. Most systems nowadays, if you purchased a computer in the past, in the past 3, 4, 5 years, you should be running 64-bit. So this is older PCs. But still, the malware also quit execution if the user was not using an administrator account. Although, again, not to underplay this, this is probably still going to affect a number of, systems. So they said that the threat actor compromised CCleaner infrastructure, saying that the security researcher, and this coming to us from Cisco Talos, detected the tainted CCleaner app last week while performing beta testing of a new exploit detection technology. So they're testing a new technology, and it gets a hit, and it turns out it's CCleaner. So the researchers identified a version of CCleaner making calls to suspicious domains, and while initially this looked like another case where a user downloaded a fake malicious CCleaner app, they later discovered that the CCleaner installer was downloaded from the official website and was signed using a valid digital certificate. That's right. So that means that it was actually connecting to all the right channels. It was just also connecting to not the right servers. And that they believe a threat actor might have compromised a vast supply chain and used its digital certificate to replace the legitimate CCleaner 5.33 app on its website with one that contained the Floxif Trojan. So they're saying that how it was infected was somewhere along the line of, having the free download. They were able to replace which version of CCleaner was downloaded to the version that included the malware. And they said that it's unclear if they were able to breach Avast systems without the company's knowledge, or the malicious code was added by an insider with access to either the development or build environments within the organization. So again, what they're saying there is that they don't know if this is someone from within the company acting maliciously and, hey, they can fix it, or they don't know if someone outside was able to hack into Avast and then was able to alter the program at that point. Right, so there you have it. And of course, they said that the most recent 5.3.4 CCleaner is available for download as of, September 13th. So if you updated within the last week, you should be good to go. Don't worry about it. You will be protected. And they said that updating to recent versions will remove the infected will remove the malware. So, and the malware again was simply just redirecting you to servers that were not authorized and were able to collect information about your PC. So don't get me wrong, this is bad. This is, they said that the affected software has been installed on 2.27 million machines from its inception until now. That's right. So, and they said that we believe that these users are safe now, as our investigation indicates we were able to disarm the threat before it was able to do any harm. Now comes, not triage, but, the post panic, and they have to figure out how this happened, why it happened, and how to make sure it doesn't happen again, because they dodged a pretty big bullet. People install this thing on work PCs all the time to make sure that they're, nice and speedy. It's a very trusted, a very, a very well-known piece of software, and it can do a lot of damage. It can do a lot of harm. So there you have it, CCleaner. Now, if you have it, update it as soon as possible to make sure you are not affected. All right, So with that being said, I think we have time for just one more story. I really wanted to do about China and their war on Bitcoin, so to say, but I think instead we're going to do this one. And Apple, I think most consumers have this weird relationship with Apple, where on one side they see them as hoity-toity, they see them as just weird people who are out of touch with the average consumer. But then Apple lately has been doing a lot to protect consumer privacy and, consumer, really, Apple's turning out to be one of the best consumer advocates in the industry. So here we have a story, this one from The Guardian, saying that Apple blocking ads that follow users around the web is sabotage, and that's what the industry says. So this, by the way, coming from Alex Hearn, saying that the new iOS 11 and macOS High Sierra will stop ads following Safari users, prompting open letter claiming Apple is destroying the internet's economic model. There's been a lot of talk about, is the internet's economic model worth saving or keeping? Because right now it's because no one's paying, really. I mean, we have advertising, but no one's paying for the content they're consuming at any reasonable rate. So the only way to get paid is to collect as much information on a person as possible, which I think a lot of people would say is outrageous, and they wouldn't agree to it if they knew just how much information they were giving up. Well, they're taking that and saying, this is how we get paid, and Apple's saying, you don't need to track our customers. Too bad. So something's going to give here, but at this point, Apple is advocating on the side of consumers. So for the second time in as many years, internet advertisers are facing unprecedented disruption to their business model thanks to a new feature in the forthcoming Apple software update. This being iOS 11, the latest version of Apple's operating system for mobile devices, will hit users' phones and tablets tomorrow, Tuesday. Fun fact, I didn't know that. But it will include a new default feature for the Safari web browser dubbed Intelligent Tracking Prevention, which prevents certain websites from tracking users around the net, in effect blocking those annoying ads that follow you everywhere you visit. So yeah, and those things are called super cookies. They know, they follow you from site to site. They let you know that you were here, and essentially, let's say you went to Walmart.com and you were looking at, dressers or something. Then a super cookie would kind of tag your browsing session and say that this person was looking at dressers. So all ads from now on should be pieces of home furniture. And yeah, that's how they do it. And this new feature from Apple is going to prevent that. So they're not going to be able to track you from site to site to site. And instead, it's going to be a clean session every time. So they said that the tracking prevention system is also to arrive on Apple computers September 25th. As part of the High Sierra update to macOS, where Safari is used by 14.9% of all internet users. And that coming to us from StatCounter. So, 14.9, that seems like a lot, and it probably is. But, it's not going to change everything, because a lot of those, I guarantee you, are mobile users. And, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how effective mobile advertising is. But at any rate, we're seeing a huge shift from the traditional model of advertising and ads and, pop-ups and things like that between Google and their acceptable ads program and their whitelisting and their ad blocking. And now with Apple taking aim at the super cookies, yeah, I don't know. It's revenue on, if you make revenue through the internet, through advertising or otherwise, you're going to take a hit. And it's going to change the internet as we know it. So, everyone, the music means we're just about out of time. But if you want to learn more about this or others, hey, check it out, computeramerica.com. Be sure to check out amd4u.com. That's another great place to get some information. One last time, I want to thank our guest, AMD, for joining us on the program, talking all about their latest products, talking all about their graphics cards, CPUs, and talking about, hey, what they're up to. Great to hear from them. And of course, great to hear from you guys. If you want to reach out to Computer America, feel free. Send us an email, live@computeramerica.com, or feel free to hit us up on social media via Twitter, Facebook, what have you. Wherever you find Computer America, hey, you can reach out and talk to us. So until next time, everyone, tune in tomorrow on the show as we have with us, let's see, a company called Mightier. That's right. So, and it should be a lot of fun as we talk to them. Everyone, computeramerica.com. Catch you next time. Have a great one. Bye-bye.